Welcome back to OpenLine tonight. We're talking about gun violence in our community. We have the family members of murdered folks, two young men in our community who were murdered. We also have Earl Jordan here from Partners in the Struggle, the organization that comes alongside these families and offers support. Also going into the schools and working with kids on the proactive end of things so they don't turn to gun violence. And Earl, I know you wanted to really designate this month as Gun Violence Awareness Month. That's why we're wearing these ribbons with polka dots. Tell me about this effort.
Probably about 3 years ago, I was at home and I was watching CNN. This was when it was shootings going on. It was summertime, and so it was already in my heart to do. And I was just like, God, give me a sign, And I guess this year we've seen more shootings. Not just here in our city, but nationally. We've had police officers, the ones protecting serve getting shot and killed. We're having, unarmed black men getting shot and killed. We're having our loved ones shot and killed. And so right around August, I said, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do something where we can really bring awareness to the gun violence, a better awareness, because sometimes I really feel in our society that even our political leaders don't understand what families go through.
Right.
They don't.
I don't think so.
And no disrespect to them, but getting a better awareness, and I mean on a whole level. We got guns coming to our metro schools. Is it time there to say we need walk-through metal detectors? Because situations are happening, and I hate to say that, but we got to start thinking about it. Because when you're on this side, there's no coming back. When you're at that funeral and your loved one is laid out of that casket, it's over pretty much. And so, Gun Violence Awareness Month is basically bringing awareness on every level. Having everyone say, hey, what can we do to make our city better, due to this gun violence epidemic that we're having.
I know you've already had one event where you asked people to go lay down. Tell me about that.
Lay down challenge against gun violence, and you can still participate in it to the end of December. And basically what it is just like, the water challenge everybody's doing, the mannequin challenge. You can basically go outside and lay down for 5 minutes in the cold. For our loved ones, for the survivors of gun violence. We want to honor these lives, and so that's just a challenge that I would like everyone to do, and do it, because once again, the lay down position represents every victim who laid down in the exact same position, who either survived or they didn't. So that's what it's about.
All right. You also have a balloon release coming up, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as we were talking about during the break, all of us, when we hear these stories on the news and we report them, and I've reported in 3 different cities, and it's the same over and over again. It's often young men who are the victims here. And it just, I think, why do kids do this? Do they not know you can't, there's no take back. This is final. This isn't a joke, that life is sacred, and they just don't get it. You work in the schools. Tell me what's going on. Well,
I work at Merle School, and that's located on the part of South Dash, 14th Avenue, 1450 14th Avenue South. And I love my kids. I've been working with kids for 29 years. I've been in Metro for 15 years, working with the behavioral setting in the schools. And I see a lot of anger in our children. At 7 o'clock in the morning, where do you get all this anger? You fetch all this anger from. And so Mr. Earl, as you can tell, I love my basketball apparel, and so they can identify with me. A lot of majority of our children in our school are African Americans, young black boys. So I make it my business to make sure that at least they can see somebody consistent that looks just like them that they can respect. So when I go inside the schoolhouse, I make sure every day that even if you are being disrespectful, calling me derogatory words, that next day I'm going to make sure that we're still on the same accord. I'm not going to give up on you. But we have a lot of kids, Carrie, who are going through this metamorphosis, is what I call it, psychologically, where things may not be right in their life, and they see other situations in our environment that they think that I could grab hold to, but don't understand the repercussions. If you pick up a gun, if you see it on TV, that's TV. But if you pull this trigger in real life, you take somebody's life, you're gonna be in a penitentiary for the rest of your life. And so we want to make sure, as we was talking before, what we got to do is to make sure we can get our kids at a very young age, very young, and teach them this is not the way. And then we got to give them the options to be great. Once again, it's easy to get a gun. It's easy to get a gun. It's easy to go out here and start selling drugs. It's easy for that 5-year-old to be a lookout for the drug dealer.
Wow. 5 years old.
5 years old.
Really?
5 years old. Because this is what they see in their environment. So if you live in a drug infested neighborhood, you 6, 7 years old, you can be that lookout. And he'll say, here goes some money. Buy your pair of shoes. You know, that's the world we live in. And you know, I want to say I applaud Mary Berry for saying that this summer that she's going to provide these jobs for our teenagers because they need it. As Elder Gasaway said, we got to keep our kids busy because if not, the streets going to get them.
And you were telling me that many of these young children are growing up, they're forced to be grown-ups at a very young age because of what's going on inside their own home.
Right. I feel that. And I'm not saying every home is bad, but you know what you see. And you know, the bottom line of it is that, you know, we also got to help our parents who are in need. Let me put that out there. We must help our parents who are in need. We have young parents who are having babies and they're young themselves and don't understand how to even raise this baby.
Yeah.
But, you know, you do it by any means necessary, and sometimes your choices may not be correct. That child picks everything up that he see you do like a sponge. It's like taking a picture. So that's what we see. And I know because I've been working with kids for a long time, so I know. And then we go back to that anger. That anger is so manifested inside that that's when they reach out and they conduct this behavior of violence. And we, all of us, we got to do whatever we can to make sure that our children are able to be great. That's just bottom line. And if we don't, then we're going to see more victims, 13, 14, 12. We're going to see young killers. And young perpetrators, right? And we're seeing that. So we got to get busy.
I would like to hear from your perspectives, John and Talia. What solutions do you think will work? Do you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I think what we've already been talking, uniting, coming together. That's first, because it's a lot of things that's going on now that we gotta reverse and go back to how it used to be. See, things have evolved and changed. Technology's going on, new age is going on. So we've gone away from the old values. But sometimes you gotta go back to what you know is good. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
You were saying, so many kids think they're the authority.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think we've went away from adults being the authority. Adults, you're not your kid's friend. You know, you do have a lot of young parents. I was a young mother at 16. I did not want to be my kid's friend. I did not want my son to be a statistic. You know, even though that's happened, I still have 3 other boys that I'm adamant about not being a statistic. So in saying that, you know, us as adults, we need to take control of the authority. You know, me growing up in the South, my grandmama raised me. She did not play, and I knew that. I knew what I could get away with and what I couldn't. My granddaddy spoiled me, but my grandmama didn't play. And I knew, hey, he might let me get away with something over here, but I know when she came home through that door, hey, it's time to stop.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for us as adults in the schools, teachers, our community leaders, parents, to take back the authority. Kids are scared. These teachers are scared to teach. You know, these kids fighting them, and you know, I didn't see that growing up. Hey, when I went to school, we got paddlings. If you got in trouble in school, you're gonna get in trouble at home. My boys know. When my kids were very, very small, I can always tell if they had a good or bad day. You know why? Because if they would come in the house and they was happy, good day. But if they came home and they go straight to their room and they were sad, they know they're in trouble. They wouldn't even come out of their room because they already knew they were in trouble. So you set the stage. It's time for us as a community to come together and let these kids know, hey, we the boss.
We're not going to tolerate this.
That's right. And we're going to take care of the business, and they're going to follow.
You mentioned you have 3 sons surviving.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you tell them after having a son murdered? How has life changed for your other 3 sons?
It has been a struggle for them. It's not much I can tell them. I pray for my kids. I have a 20-year-old son that he struggled a lot these last couple of years, and he's trying to get himself on track. He's graduated high school, he's working. He's been working since he was 16. And you just encourage them and motivate them to do what you know is right. It's nothing, you can't tell them how to feel. You know, that's a pain that they have to go through.
Yeah.
And I can't tell them how to, even sometimes I want to tell him, hey, you know, you can't do this or you shouldn't do that. But when I think about how I feel, then I have to go back and realize that he's hurting. You know, they're hurting. You know, and I kind of have given them a little leeway these last few years because I know their pain, you know.
Sure.
And although they don't understand mine, because I have to mask my pain, because I have to be there for them. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be a great parent. You know, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes for them to go through the pain and hurt and feel better about it than my own.
Do you think it's been eye-opening to them about the company you keep and who you're associating with? And
Definitely. My two younger boys are 15 and 12, and they don't have many friends.
which is sad.
They
so sad.
They are very outgoing. They go to school. All the kids love them. They love kids. But outside of my house, they don't have many friends. They've got, a few, but they don't. They got one or two that they'll go to their house, and they'll come. I always have kids over my house. I'm the house that all the kids come over, and I'm fine with that. Because I can see what's going on. I talk to them. We always have a good dialogue. I've always been like that with all my boys, but they don't. My 15-year-old won't go to parties. That's out. He has not been to a party since my son was murdered. So it affects them very much so.
Sure, absolutely. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, John, I wanted to hear your perspective on how things need to change and what solutions are viable out there. So stay with us. Much more to come on Open Line tonight.